Okay, so hello to our audience. You are listening to the Gemini Legal Podcast, focused on the California workers' compensation industry and the faithful practitioners. We are live, special podcast here at the California Applicants Attorneys Association Winter Convention in Rancho Mirage. I am Dan Mora. I am not an attorney. I am the CEO and founder of Gemini Legal, and we provide discovery services to California workers' compensation professionals. My guest today, a very special guest, Rochelle Snyder, and she has a practice in Long Beach. Is that right, Rochelle?
Costa Mesa, California.
Costa Mesa. So welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Also, Rochelle is the chapter president for the Long Beach chapter? No.
Orange County.
Orange County. Okay. So I'm a Northern California guy, so
it all blends together, right?
Good. So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So can you give us a quick background on how you came upon this industry?
Sure. Actually, law is a third career for me. I had a couple before. I came to it later in life, and I was actually an injured worker in one of my previous jobs.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I actually filed a case, had a claim. I've found myself on the system. It's kind of interesting to look back at my old injury and what I settled it for and who my attorney was. But I have firsthand knowledge of what it's like to be an injured worker and the benefit I received from, going through the system to adjudicate my claim. And when I became an attorney, my biggest goal was to help people. And still is. And I stumbled into this area of law and have been doing it for about 9 years now and love it and wouldn't do anything else.
What a unique perspective to be an injured worker and now representing them.
Yes.
So that's your passion, it sounds like.
Definitely.
Yeah. And, it's unfortunate that there's a lot of unrepresented injured workers. And, what's your advice to them? I feel bad for injured workers that are trying to navigate this really complex system on their own. Thank God there's very, very good attorneys out there, but the injured worker has to find their way then to the attorney.
Definitely. And I think, I don't know the exact percentage, but I know it's actually a pretty low percentage that has an attorney. And even of the claims that are filed, it's a very low percentage of actual injured workers. So if you extrapolate that and see how many injured workers there really are who never say anything, they don't report it, they're injured and they keep working, it's really sad.
Yeah.
My goal is just to educate as many people as I can. I do what I can. I'm very active in outreach. I believe in it. I'll attend health fairs. I'll speak to anyone who will speak to me, basically, about it. I talk to groups all the time because I think the workforce in general doesn't even know their rights.
Right, yeah. And so that must have been an aha moment for you, but you were injured and then getting, or at least exposed to, or the option to get back into workers' compensation as an attorney. I asked this from some other people. When was their aha moment that sparked the passion for injured workers?
Well, I've always wanted to help people, so even in the beginning of my law career, I did a couple other areas of law that were about helping people. I've always been on that side. If I could help someone succeed, then I felt like I did my duty to humanity a little bit. And just workers' comp touched me. I felt like I could really make an impact with people and know that they could move forward with their life, and that's what it's all about for me.
Where do you feel is the biggest struggle right now for injured workers in getting the benefits that they are entitled to?
It's treatment.
Treatment
is so hard to come by. I mean, it just in the short time, the 9 years I've been doing it, I have seen it really get worse.
Gotcha.
Just in availability of doctors and availability of treatments that get approved, it just seems like it's a fight from start to finish.
And, that delay in treatment, we talk about that and that causing more injury.
Absolutely.
Do you have any examples of that?
I have a great example, and it's on my mind because he's a current client. I'm not going to give any names, but I was telling someone last night, his injury would have been so much less detrimental had it been dealt with early. The guy had like a tear in his shoulder. It happened through work. He lifted something or something happened where, he shouldn't have been doing that, and he got a tear in his shoulder. So he could have had probably maybe an injection, maybe physical therapy, maybe even an arthroscopic surgery. That's a pretty laser, like a little non-intrusive kind of surgery. But everything was denied for years. And in doing that, his injury got so bad that he ended up having to have a much more invasive surgery. While he was in the hospital, he ended up with a staph infection, very nasty. He ended up having that almost took his life. He literally now can't lift his arm above his shoulder, has significant problems, needs a total shoulder replacement, has pain that is excruciating, has all sorts of other issues along with that could have been avoided by dealing with it properly in the beginning.
Who's talking about that? So there's this fight or this balance between delay, but then the overtreatment concern from the other side. And I mean, how do we bridge that gap?
I think the people who say there's overtreatment are focusing on it in the aggregate. They haven't heard the stories. They aren't talking about the people. They're not giving it the human element. I invite any of them to spend a day with me, with my clients. I'll bring them in. I just talk to them. I don't ask them to, I don't put anything in their mind. I don't try to manipulate them. But their stories are gut-wrenching. And when you hear them, you just, literally the first year I did this, I had to pick my jaw up off the floor almost every day.
Wow.
I couldn't believe the stuff I was hearing. I couldn't believe that in America, this kind of stuff happened. And I'm not trying to be very dramatic. I was appalled because if it was me, I would be in the ER every day. But these people are, a lot of them, they don't want to lose their job. They don't want to have anything happen to them. They're afraid they're going to be liable for the bill. They can't afford it. So they don't get the medical treatment they need and deserve. And it has horrible repercussions. And I think it has bad repercussions on us as a society.
And that's really important, the human element to what we do. Yeah, there's pushing buttons and pulling levers and getting things done, but there's so many, I'm sure there's just countless examples of you actually just being there for the injured worker. It's significant. And there's so many studies that the socialization of people is critical to their mental health, but yeah, that's good. And you have that human element, but you also have this statistical element and the dollars. And to me, that's the most interesting factor here that's not really paid attention to. It's because the delay dollars compared to the overtreatment dollars. I wonder if anybody's doing that.
Well, I think they just, and I have great colleagues on the other side of the bar. The defense, I have friends that are defense attorneys, so I don't paint them all with a broad brush, but I just believe there's kind of an undercurrent that they just think everyone's exaggerating their symptoms and everyone's trying to, they call it milk the system. I haven't met one person trying to, if you're trying to get rich on the workers' comp system, that's silly. There isn't any money in it. So it's not a lottery. And I think that may be an old idea that needs to be given away because it's not relevant. And people really, they don't want to hire me. And I'm not trying to say I'm a bad attorney. I mean, they don't want to have to go to an attorney.
Right.
They want to work with their employer. They don't want to miss work. They don't want anything to happen to them. They're happy with their life, and then they get injured, and they feel like something happened to them. And when they did the right thing and took the right steps, no one listened to them. No one believed them. I can't tell you how many clients I've retained because they got a letter in the mail from an adjuster. They were working through the system with their company, not filing anything, not getting an attorney, and all of a sudden they got a letter from an adjuster saying, your case is closed, you have no injury. And they're still going to the doctor going, I'm in pain. So that's when they start looking for an attorney because they realize they're in over their head and they need help. Yeah,
I think that's very true and worth repeating just this. You look for an attorney at the last resort. Absolutely. You're just trying to get on with your life, and at least that's a majority of my experience too with injured workers.
And it's not like we're out there saying, oh, you should call an attorney. I mean, if they could avoid it, they should. But a lot of times they can't because there's no one speaking for them. There's no one helping them. And they're literally getting the short end of the deal by dealing directly with their employer. And they think their employer has their best interest. And I'm not saying the employer itself doesn't, but they don't realize the intricacies of the system and the way it works. And it's sad, I think.
Completely. Yes, that makes sense. So if you had a magic wand, what would we do? What could we do to the system to help it out?
Well, it's interesting because we're stuck in this MPN, which is a medical provider network. And just like with a regular person who has medical insurance, you just pick a doctor off that list, you go to the doctor. That's what people believe that system is supposed to do. That is what it's supposed to do. Unfortunately, it's broken. It doesn't work. I've been on the phone myself calling page after page of these doctors who will not accept my client as a patient because the injury is too old or other issues. And it's just frustrating. Even though these are people on the list that are supposed to take my client and help the patient get better, they're not doing it. So I'm at a loss. I mean, it's almost like, I hate to say this, but I have people who are in so much pain. That earlier client, I had to recommend, I told him some stuff wasn't getting improved that needed to be. And I told him, if you have to, go to the emergency room. And he had to because he was in excruciating pain. That's not the answer. Yeah. We shouldn't be using emergency rooms like that. But people have to resort to that when they can't get any other relief. And I think that's sad. I think that's my magic wand. I want to make the MPN, if we're going to use it, make it appropriate and make it relevant. It's not.
Yeah, we're hearing that a lot. So you're on leadership, and I want to understand from your perspective how that is valuable.
Okay, well, for me, a lot of it's about education. I came into this, I needed to learn as much as I could, as quick as I could. I had clients relying on me to know everything. The best way to do that is literally to be with the best and brightest. So I said, I'll volunteer. Actually, what happened was I ran into someone I had heard speak at an event, and he was a great speaker, and I said, hey, I want to get involved. What do I do? How do I get something happening in my area? And he said, you want to volunteer? And I ended up volunteering 6 years ago. And have loved it. I've met great people. I have great mentors from it. I'm able to access a wide group of very knowledgeable attorneys with a history that know what they're doing. And for me, it's about education. So by being chapter president, we educate our members on a monthly or bi-monthly basis about just one small part of the system, one issue, and maybe do a kind of a 1 hour little deep dive, or let's discuss this is happening. So like the MPN issue, we could discuss how are we all handling it, or issues about what's happening, where I go to court, the board recently moved and what that move was going to do and how that was going to impact our clients. So things like that. And I'm able to be a liaison with what's happening in Sacramento and the state, because it's a workers' comp is state specific, and then let that come trickle down to my county in Orange County, where we're kind of far removed from Sacramento. So unless we see it on the news, we don't know what's going on. So it helps to have that monthly kind of check-in. Here's what's happening, and here's how we're trying to help our injured workers.
Right. It takes community.
Right, and it's about all of us. So it isn't like there's some healthy competition with different attorneys, but it's not like, oh, I'm not going to tell you how to help your client because I won't win. That's not it. It's all very collaborative. That was very eye-opening to me and really great, because I don't want to be in a place where I'm fighting with everyone. We're all here to help people. That's right. Why I hope. If not, they're in the wrong business.
Mm-hmm. And you've been in practice now, you said
9 years.
9 years. And so running a business, I'm with you there. There's challenges every day.
There are.
What has been maybe the most surprising challenge or the most difficult challenge that you've had to face as a law practice, an owner of a law practice? It's
probably time, and just how to spread yourself in all different directions. Give the time to the clients that they need, give the time to train. I trained all my staff, give the time to my staff, the time to the organization and the larger group. Mm-hmm. So, and I need to grow as a person and as a practitioner. I don't know everything at all. I need to learn and grow. So just that. I think in part it's a good thing I came to this as a career later in life, because I can devote a lot of hours when I know some other people, they're raising families, they have other obligations. It's hard to balance.
Right. So. Yeah. I agree. That balance is very difficult. Lots of demands, and very good. Very good. So, are you a sports person?
I'm not.
No. So, what's your hobby?
I'm a music person.
Music. Oh, let's talk about music.
Okay.
So, you play any instruments?
No, I'm a listener.
Okay.
I'm kind of a weird band fanatic. I don't know if anyone's told you this. I'm a U2 fan.
Okay.
Big fan. I've seen them 3 times in Dublin.
Wow.
I won't chase them around the world, but if they play in their home country, I'm going.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I myself been a musician and music nerd, but
I can play the radio, but I appreciate music.
Very cool. Well, best of luck to your practice. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We'd love to have you again, and I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right.